Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the EU Weekly Review, this time one day ahead of its ordinary Friday slot due to Christmas Eve, which falls on Friday and is a public holiday in Slovakia. Now we present some of the highlights around the conference on the future of Europe with Slovakia's involvement during the past week. Slovakia should hold a national convention in regard to the conference on the future of Europe in late January, although, as cautioned by Slovak Deputy Foreign Minister Martin Klus, the pandemic might affect the form of the event. Klus, who was in charge of the conference's matters at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, noted that the situation is hard to predict, but he hopes that the national convention will take place in Košice on the 27th of January, and at least some participants will be present in person, while other guests will join the event remotely. The Slovak people need to be shown the benefits of their country's EU membership and also need to be part of the discussion on what happens in the EU. Meanwhile, the conference on the future of Europe is the first such step to meet these goals, said MEP Martin Hojsík from the Progressive Slovakia Party. The COVID-19 pandemic, climate crisis, but also the growth of disinformation and polarization of society are reasons why more discussion is needed, he said. Hojsík also stressed that Slovaks display a long-standing low amount of interest in the EU, and when benefits of Slovakia's EU membership are brought to the table, the public discourse is then, quote, hijacked by disinformation and Euroscepticism, end of quote. According to MEP Vladimír Bielčík from the Liberal Extra-Parliamentary Party Together, democracy and the independent media are under increasing pressure throughout the Union. The conference, he says, should provide answers as to how to strengthen democratic institutions and the rule of law in EU member states. The conference on the future of Europe is an initiative of the European Commission, Parliament and the European Council, and is designed to give citizens of member states the chance to express their views on the future direction of the EU. Bielčík sees an added value in the conference in that it brings together representatives of national parliaments, the European Parliament, governments, and especially representatives of the public. Let's recall here that 800 representatives of EU citizens were divided into 4 panels, within which they should meet 3 times between September and January. Each panel is attended by an equal number of men and women, while people from both urban and rural areas are proportionally represented. Michal Viezik from the Progressive Slovakia Party and the Renew Europe group was on TASA TV to label Euroscepticism as a, quote, big problem, end of quote. Ascribing it to the influence of the disinformation scene, he believes that Euroscepticism isn't based on objective knowledge or facts. Meanwhile, he says that, quote, there's an overload of information and people aren't sufficiently able to filter and approach information critically, end of quote. According to him, people are being exposed to disinformation attacks and a hybrid war. Viezik's party colleague Michal Šimečka admitted on TASA TV that the Union needs criticism. As an example, he pointed to lengthy bureaucratic procedures in the EU, which he called cumbersome and hardly comprehensible for the public. In a different interview for the news agency of the Slovak Republic, Šimečka pointed out that more than 130,000 Europeans with diverse views have taken part in various events held under auspices of the Conference on the Future of Europe, a fact that, quote, dispels claims of the dictate by Brussels, end of quote. Conversely, in a series of interviews conducted by the news agency of the Slovak Republic, independent MEP Milan Uhrík from the Nationalist Republic Party expressed a different view to Šimečka's, stating that the Conference on the Future of Europe has been tailor-made for representatives of NGOs and like-minded people. They pretend to be spokespersons for all Europeans, calling for more multiculturalism, rainbow pride marches, the so-called Green Agenda and LGBT ideology, said Uhrík, adding that the selection of speakers and organizations has already been criticized by conservatives as biased. The MEP expects the conference's conclusions and recommendations to have indeed an impact on the EU's future direction, as, quote, almost exclusively people with a similar mindset as European commissioners are being invited to the conference, end of quote. MEP Robert Heischel, who was elected as an independent on the slate of the Social Democratic SD party, also harbors some skepticism, claiming that the future of the EU won't be decided by the Conference on the Future of Europe, but rather by national general elections and, to a lesser extent, by the European Parliament elections. According to Heischel, the conference should involve in its discussions not only urbanites from big cities, but also countryside dwellers, and not just academics, journalists and young activists, but also employees, pensioners and business people. Heischel said, quote, I'm afraid that the reason for low public participation in the conference is not just COVID, but also the lack of belief that involvement in such a forum might change anything, end of quote. The Slovak Union of Towns, UMS, this week also made some comments on the Conference on the Future of Europe, stating that everything that might advance the quality of life in the EU with respect to the pandemic, climate and economic crises is worthwhile. So we've now reached the end of the final episode of the EU Weekly Review this year. Now we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you in January.